Hello, and welcome to Fringes of Reality, where we discuss your experiences. This week I'm joined by co host Kevin. Kevin, how are you?
Doing all right. Been busy yourself.
Oh, well, same. Doing a lot of this, so I don't
Hmm.
hate it though. I can't complain. So today we're actually going to sit down and talk with host of the Where the Weird Ones Are podcast, also Kevin. Other Kevin, how are you? I'm sorry, Weird Kevin, how are you?
That's good too. Other or weird Kevin is perfectly fine. But I'm good. I'm fantastic. It was a good day.
Good. That's wonderful. Well, then I'm glad you're here. Now it's a perfect day, right? I mean, geez.
Absolutely, absolutely. Every day I draw breath anyway is the perfect day, but anytime that I get to talk to people like yourself is always uh I guess icing on the cake.
Oh, wow. You just became my favorite guest of all time. So, top that one, other guests. I'm just kidding. I will cut. Obviously, weird Kevin and I know each other from previous endeavors. I was on your show one time. People should go listen
Yes, you
to it,
were.
and they should go listen to the other people that you've had on your show because I know most of them and they're great people. So you pick really good guests. I'll give you that.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I try and ask a lot of people that haven't been on other shows, but that's not always the case. But
Sure.
and then I get a lot of other podcasters that that are interested in talking about their experiences and all these weird topics and then I kind of like combine them all together every once in a while for a panel for like a conspiracy roundtable kind of talk.
Very
So
neat. Very cool. Well, so you yourself have experience speaking to people with experiences.
yes, I have a lot actually. Starting from when I was very just little wee baby and to present day actually. I think the latest one was last week when I was
Oh,
recording. It was right before I started recording with Middle Aged and Creeped Out podcast, the guys from there. Um, and somebody knocked on my door to the studio and I was like, I looked at my dog who was laying at my feet, and I was like, "Was that you?" And she just
no.
kind of stares at me like, "The fuck are you talking about? I'm
She
sleeping."
denied all doing. Yeah, she's like, I'm not involved in this.
Yeah, so and it was only her and I in the house, and I just said, I said, "Come in,"
Oh,
and I didn't hit the door didn't move. I didn't hear anything, so I had to obviously get up and look. I'm like, is somebody in the fucking house? And then I had to go around through the whole house to make sure nobody was in the house. Um, but yeah,
was
that
this mid recording? While you were in the middle of the show?
no, it was literally right before it was probably 2 minutes before they came on to the recording channel to the studio
Wow. Yeah.
Riverside.
That's it always happens that way, right? So like had you been in the middle of the show, then the whole thing is caught, right?
You're
Recorded, but
right.
it waited or it didn't wait, it got ahead of itself rather and was like, I'm gonna
Yes.
do this real quick. Just gonna mess with this guy. Um so let's go on a timeline. Let's go all the way back. What is your first instance of any type of weirdness, high strangeness, paranormal? What do you got for us?
All right. So I was in kindergarten, so I had to be at least 5. We were living in Lancaster, Vermont, in a trailer, and I remember well, my sister. It's an experience. It's not with my sister, but it's off of an experience my sister had.
Okay.
So she says that we had watched Ghostbusters 2 that night,
Oh,
which would might give a little bit of credence of to why she had spoken of this entity in the way that she did. But we were all getting ready for bed. There was 3 of us, and my older brother had already gone to the room. Me and my brother shared a room all the way at the end of the trailer, and I remember my sister started crying saying there was a witch in her window, and my mom's just like, "There's no witch in the window." And then my dad like literally was just getting home from work at that particular moment, so he went in to like console her, and he was just doing the dad thing, like, "Oh, I'm gonna send so and so out to protect the house and this and that. You don't have to worry about anything. Everything's gonna be okay." Um, I remember walking by her bedroom and kind of like snickering to myself. I was like, "She's crazy." Um, and I got to the doorway of my bedroom, and there's two windows like that just go that look out at the end, because this is the very end of the trailer.
Mhm.
And it was so dark outside, but I saw two figures just go by the window. It was like they were flying, because the trailer was it wasn't on a foundation, but it was raised up because we were on the side of a mountain. And like, to be like a full grown adult, to be able to look in the windows of this particular trailer, like, you had to be on a ladder or something, so you couldn't
Mm.
just walk by and see into the windows, you know what I mean, like a regular house. And I just remember being like, what the hell? And the best way that I can describe it is they were just two figures that were darker than the darkness. And to give credence to what my sister had said, um, at that moment in time, I attributed it to two witches flying on like just
Sure.
flying on their brooms, going by, going like, you
But you didn't
know.
hear them say, "Hee hee 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 hee." Is
No,
that right?
no, I
Okay,
did
yeah.
not. I did not. They just went whoop right by the window. There was no sound. And I was just like, "Oh, okay." And then I went to the living room, and I sat on the couch where all the lights were on, because it was dark in my bedroom because my brother had already gotten into bed. And my dad comes out and he goes, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Huh? I'm gonna sleep on the couch." He's like, "Go to bed." I was like, "Ah, fine." But that was that was it for really that situation. I don't recall anything ever happening after that in that house or anything. It just, that one time, it creeped me out to not want to be in my room. But I do remember there was a couple of times, so maybe it could have been like something in my dreams too. Um, During that time, because there was a lot of nights where I would find myself sleeping in my parents' doorway, or
Interesting.
maybe I was sleepwalking or something. I'd wake up in my parents' doorway. But I do remember one time just crying to get into bed with my parents, and they didn't acknowledge me because I guess I didn't wake them up. Maybe, I don't know. And I remember just laying down in the doorway. So
That's kind of rude of your parents, but
I agree.
no. So did you and your sister ever, did you talk, were you like, I believe you because I saw the same thing, or did you ever acknowledge it to each other that you both had this experience?
Yes, yes. I don't think we did in that anytime like when we were that young.
Mhm.
I think as we got older, we talked about things that we experienced and stuff, and that did come up. Um, because I remember there's been a few experiences that we shared. So, and
Okay.
then we talk about it. She was actually a co-host for my show for a little bit too.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So,
I
and
forgot.
yeah, and then we were on a show together, and she told some of her stories, and actually one of them I completely forgot about, that because I didn't actually experience it. She saw something and she ran, and I screamed and ran with her. I never saw anything. I just fucking ran.
Sure. Sure. Wow. So you both have had these experiences your entire life.
Yep.
Like you said, that was probably, you really don't remember any other ones happening in that house. Well, when did a new one happen?
So I think it was I was probably in second grade or first grade, maybe even. We had moved in with my grandparents,
Oh, okay.
and um, I remember seeing shadow figures in their basement all the time, and they creep me out. And I used to, like, my grandfather would be like, "Go downstairs for this," or "Go downstairs for that." Um, and I remember just like standing at the um foot of the stairs, looking down and just being like, I don't want to go down there because I've seen stuff down there. Um, and then so I would, the minute my feet would hear the creak of the stairs, I would start singing and be like, I would sing some kind of song and be like, oh well, the ghosts aren't gonna hurt me because they're I'm singing or something. So it was kind of like a comfort thing. And I don't know why it it was that
Hmm.
way, but I I don't know. I always did it, and then I would always see like a figure either in the corner or by one of the lolly columns or something. And when my parents split up, we still lived there. Well, we moved out for a little bit, and then my parents split up and we moved back. And then my brother's bedroom was down in the basement, and his bedroom had the N64. So
Oh,
like I had to go down to the
right. You
basement.
have to.
Mhm.
Exactly. Like I needed my video game fix, so and the only way to do that was to brave the shadow people in the basement. Sometimes there would be like one like crouched underneath the stairs, so like I'd be leaving my brother's bedroom and I'd open the door and there'd be one like right under the stairs like staring at me, and I'd just run upstairs as fast as I could. Um but yeah, those shadow figures were, they never did anything, so eventually I ended up not being scared of them.
Okay.
They always just stood there, or they would be there and then they would dart into another room or something like that. And now in that same house too, um, is that instant where my sister saw something and we ran. So she saw like this black mass just move from the kitchen to the living room, and she just screamed and dropped everything, screamed, and she ran and she turned and ran past me because it was like 6 o'clock in the morning. We were getting ready for school, and she runs by me, and I turn and I run back, and we run to my mother's bedroom, and my mother's like, "What the hell? What the hell? What the hell?" And she's trying to explain what she saw, and my mom's just like, "What is happening?" I was like, "I have no idea. She screamed and ran, so I did too." I don't know what she's talking about. I just know if she's scared of something, I should probably go too.
Sure.
So my sister likes to tell that story to people as in a way. She's like, Kevin's gonna um out of everybody that I know, Kevin's probably the only one that would survive a horror movie because he didn't question anything. He just fucking turned and ran.
She's running, I'm running. That's the way it works.
Exactly.
That's what antelope and buffalo and that's what herd animals do, right? It's
Yeah,
uh,
it's that gut instinct, that first initial reaction to the fight or flight response, If if you get right into that stance and uh the, and the flight is the one that hits you, then that's the one you should be doing.
right. Well, that's probably why they kept you away from the track field in high school, because you see people
Yeah.
running, you're like, oh, it's time. Um, no, let's go back to let's just kind of go back to the shadow people a little bit. When you describe these shadow figures, are these things that you would see out of the corner of your eye, or you could like look straight at it and there it is in a full figure?
Both. So
Both.
sometimes I would see them out of the corner of my eye and I'd look and they weren't there, but there were times where I could just stare at them and they'd just stare right back at me. Or well, at least it would seem like they were. I could have been staring at the back of their head, for all I know.
They don't even know you're there.
Yeah.
Were they people shaped?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Were they adult sized or child sized, or did
Uh,
it vary?
they were all different sizes, but I don't think any of them were child size.
Okay. So more than one, you would assume based off of appearance.
Yes.
Interesting. Did you ever see, or were they just all black, or did they have eyes, or any details?
It was just completely black.
Very
I
neat.
couldn't tell anything. Well, I could see like head, shoulders, and stuff like that, but like no impressions of any kind.
Mm. Did you ever try to talk to them?
No. I
Just
mean,
let them
now that
die.
I think of it, I feel like I wish I kind of did. Well, there
Right.
was times I guess I could have been talking to them technically. I'd be like, I'm just grabbing because with along with the
Right.
singing to comfort myself to go down there and stuff, I'd just be like, I'm just grabbing this, don't hurt me. Like I'd say stuff like that.
Do you think do you think Grandpa might have been sending you down there because he didn't want to fucking go down there, or
That's a good possibility, but he did, I don't know, because he did spend time down there every once in a while.
okay.
He used to have like a NASCAR collection down there
Oh, okay.
at one time, but then I don't know what he did with it, and it just became storage once again.
Sure.
Um,
Was it like a finished basement?
just my brother's bedroom was finished.
Gotcha. Okay. I was just curious to think about. I'm trying to imagine Grandpa's sick NASCAR setup. You
He had one of those cool ass like glass cabinets too that lit up. So like you had these shelves with like these little like toy NASCAR cars and flags and hats to go with them and stuff, and they would light up individually. It was
Oh,
pretty
that's
cool.
cool. I was
Yeah.
just curious. um, Kevin, or I'm sorry, co-host Kevin, do you have any questions so far?
I got a couple.
Okay.
So, did your sister ever explain like what the witch kind of looked like, or was the black figure like what you saw that night?
She said the way she explained it was a face in the window, like somebody was just had their face pressed up against the window, and just staring at her.
Okay, so I'm just trying to think like, were they possibly the same figures, or like was it completely black face, if that makes sense, or was there actually like detail?
Um, as far as I can remember, I feel like from what she has told me, um, she saw like a real person almost. Like she could see detail in the face and everything. And from what I saw, I didn't. It was just blackness.
Okay.
Um, she didn't see blackness. She saw like an actual what looked like an actual person.
Now, how long were you guys in that trailer for after that? I can't
After,
remember. Yeah, I can't remember if you said it or not. I apologize.
no, I didn't say, so you're good. I think we were only there for a year altogether, so I don't know, maybe 2 years. But I want to say it was had to be after this experience. It had to be 8 months to a year before we moved.
Do you remember if she ever mentioned the same thing happening again to her, or because
No,
I know no?
she's never had anything in that house anyway.
Okay. Those were all the questions I had right now.
Okay. That's all right. Okay, so we've got the shadow figures and your sister's mask. Is the house still in your family to this day?
Yes, my uncle and his wife live there currently.
Are they having strange experiences that you know of?
As far as I know of, I actually, you know what? I can't even say. I don't know.
Okay.
That's all I can say, really. I have been kind of wanting to ask them, but they they're kind of the best way to say is they're kind of like socially awkward to
Oh,
talk to sometimes.
oh okay, sure.
So I have a hard time talking to them a little bit. And I don't I can't I want to say that I don't like his wife, but
Oh,
uh, Yeah, oh, well, I'll just stand by that statement. I don't really care for his wife, so
Well,
I don't see them much anyways.
do you hear that,
But
Aunt Sheila? I don't know her name. I'm just making weird. Kevin doesn't like you, so
I don't care for you at all.
we don't like you
You.
here either. That's you can get out of here. I'm just kidding. Please continue to listen, Aunt Sheila. I need the clicks. Um, okay, no, that's fair. So okay, um, how long were you in that house for?
Oh man, we were there. Let's see, I was first grade, moved out for third grade, went back in fourth grade. Um, I guess combined total almost like 6 years or so.
Okay, just
We
off and
moved,
on, depending on where
yeah,
life is. Yeah.
because yeah, because my grandparents lived there, so it was just
Mhm.
like a place to go back to for for safety and security for my mom.
Sure, absolutely. Are those the only major events that you can think of with the house? The shadow people, which were recurrent, and then your sister seeing the black mass.
Uh, there is a few more
Okay,
other things. So, um, my mom, my mom wasn't the greatest person to me,
sure.
especially after my my dad left. Um, and I was just going through like I don't know, like why am I here kind of things.
Right.
And so I tried to take my life at 9 years old, and I think it was like 2 weeks afterwards. I was out on the swing set in the backyard, just by myself, um, trying to find something entertaining. I use my imagination a lot. I was always outside pretending that I was some either like a monster hunter or Crocodile Dundee or some crap like that.
Sure.
But I was I was sitting on this swing set, and out of nowhere, all of a sudden, out of the corner of my eye, I could see somebody on the swing set next to me. So I turned my head, and it was an old man, but he was completely see through, and I couldn't tell his what his face looked like. His face was like all disfigured or something like that. It was like wispy and wavy or whatever. It,
Okay.
it almost looked like he almost looked like what you see in movies as what a ghost would be, I
Okay.
guess,
Sure.
because I could just see right through him. And my favorite part about this is he had something in his hands. Um, and it was I know it was stringy, and I say he either had a bunch of yarn that he was like crocheting or something, or he had a bowl of noodles.
Oh.
Either way, it was something stringy.
Okay.
Um, and he just goes, "Be patient." And I was like, "About what?" And he goes, "You'll know." And then I like had this like like sleep paralysis, but it wasn't obviously sleep paralysis because I was wide awake. And I was so scared that I couldn't move, and I was like squeezing onto the chain, and I just looked at the ground, like, and I was too scared to look back at him. And it felt like, oh my God, it felt like it was forever. It felt like just like a year went by or something like that. And it was probably only 2 minutes. And I finally looked up, and he wasn't there. But that whole, like, however long it took me to look back at him, I was like, my whole body was screaming, like run inside, and I couldn't move myself at all. I just stared at the ground. My heart was freaking pounding in my chest. My face felt really hot, and I couldn't get myself to move. It was like I was paused. You know what I mean?
Interesting. That is
So
interesting. What was the old? Was he? I mean, he's an old man, right? But is he? Was he wearing anything distinct that you could tell? I mean, did he seem like he belonged in this? Some people say they see people wearing like old timey clothes. Was it anything like that?
he was wearing like a suit. I couldn't I wouldn't be able to tell you if it was like present day or
Sure.
or back in the day. Like he could have been wearing it today, to be honest.
Right.
The
I
suit.
gotcha. Well, yeah, I think
Um,
suits are pretty. They haven't changed much.
Hmm.
right, right, exactly. It was just a shirt, tie, and overcoat. That's basically what it looked like to me.
Gotcha.
That's best as I could tell. Especially since he was see through. So I was just like, what the fuck am I looking at? And I can't tell you why he's an old man because there was no like facial features or anything. And
Okay.
I think maybe it was his voice. This is what like I'm attributing to him being an old man.
It just sounded old to you.
Yeah,
Right.
that's what I'm thinking.
And then, as far as his stringy substance that he's holding, I mean, you're not sure what it is. Intestines?
Oh man, I hope it's not that.
I mean, well, I just throw. I guess intestines are a little thicker, right? So thicker than
Yeah,
noodles and yarn. But probably, I mean, maybe that because it's so unclear, or potentially that because it was just something that was stringy and long.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, I haven't heard that theory thrown out
I mean,
from the story, but that is an interesting one.
you know, I, I mean, maybe he's holding his intestines. I don't know. I'm just
Yeah,
speculating. You were there, not me, so I don't let me put it in your head if that's not what you think. But if you're thinking more, maybe yarn or maybe noodles.
yeah.
He loves spaghetti. I don't know.
I mean, or top ramen. You know what I
Top
mean?
ramen. Yeah, he could have been a top ramen guy. Um.
Yeah.
So okay, all right. So and this was you said 2 weeks after you had attempted to take your own life. Is that
Yes, that's correct.
okay? Were you when that and I mean, of course, share what you're comfortable with. Don't share what you don't want to share. But were you admitted to a hospital at that point? Did you spend time away from home?
I did not.
Okay,
Um, so I used a knife,
okay,
um, and it was higher up on my forearm, not the
gotcha.
wrist. Um, and it was a down, right across a vein,
Hmm.
and I had which it's weird that the doctor believed me, but I'm not sure. Well, actually, you want to know what? All right, so um, I cut, I didn't bleed enough, and then I got scared. You know what I mean?
Sure. Okay. No, that's
So
okay.
I run inside. I said I just fell out of a tree. Went to the doctors. Um, and while it was wrapped and everything, and the doctor like held my wrist like from like the top of my hand,
Hmm.
like my hand was inside of his hand, but he was holding onto my wrist kind
Hmm.
of thing. And he goes, so this came from a tree, from falling out of a tree? And I go, yeah. And he goes, can you do me a favor? And he just like stared me right in the eyes. He goes, can you stay out of this particular tree?
Oh,
And I
sure
said,
can.
yeah, I can.
Sure.
So I think he knew,
Yeah.
but he didn't like say anything, which, you know, if if something ended up happening and he knew, you know what I mean? I
Right.
feel like that would have been he might have like felt like shit.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and I believe are you a '90s baby also? I think we're the same age, right?
Uh I grew up in the 90s. I wasn't born in the 90s.
Oh, okay. Well, almost. Anyway, mental health and that time. I mean, we just definitely. I mean, we were getting there, right? But we weren't really there,
Yeah, we were kind of shunned for
right?
throughout the 90s.
Yeah.
I was born 88, so like the
Oh, okay.
90s I guess technically I would be considered a 90s baby because that's the um the 90s is what I experienced. I didn't really experience anything from the 80s.
Right, right. So yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. Like I said, we've come a long way. Still a long way to go, but we've come a long way. That's for
Absolutely.
sure. Because
Absolutely.
I know now if I take my child to the doctor and she's got a bruise, they're like, "When did you beat your kid?" And I'm like, "Never."
Yeah. Yeah. Like it's funny because my mom used to beat the shit out of me
Right.
all the time.
Nobody says
And
anything.
yeah, nobody said anything. I had one teacher, my sister actually scratched me um because we got into a fight. Her nail caught me and it went down my jaw, down to across my neck and down to my chest. And my
Oh
teacher
wow.
was like, "What happened?" I was like, "Oh, me and my sister got into a fight and she clawed me."
Yeah.
And next thing I know, I'm at the guidance counselor's office, and she's like, "So what happened to your teachers? We're concerned about you." And I go, "Okay." And she goes, "What happened to your neck?" I was like, "Oh, me and my sister got into a fight, and she scratched me." And she goes, "Oh, does your mother hit you?" And I go, "Yeah, all the time."
Oh wow.
I was- It was like the weirdest thing. Like I was just like, "What the fuck?" And then I was just like, "Yeah, she does." Like pretty consistently.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then
Well,
we
everybody's
ended up
mom did.
right, right, especially in the 90s. Um, I mean, my mom definitely took it a little too far. But
Sure.
after that, we ended up having visits from I guess DHS or whatever, like every once a week.
Did it get better?
And of course, my mom was like nice. Whenever this lady came, I would be like, "Can I play on the computer?" My mom was like, "Yeah." I was allowed to do whatever I wanted to do once that lady was there.
Wow.
So it was like it was really nice to have that lady there. And then as soon as she left, like sometimes I would hear her packing up her things, and I would, go to my room and like shut the door because I knew like things might happen after.
And one thing that I just kind of want to bring up real quick, as also a child of trauma, trauma is very important when it comes to these topics. It is significantly across the board, and that's one thing you guys will hear. Well, depending on what people want to share on air, of course,
Right.
but something consistently that you hear with people that have these, otherworldly, paranormal, whatever you want to call them, experiences, is that they tend to have experienced some type of physical or emotional trauma, sometimes both in their life. And
Hmm.
I don't know why that is. I have a few theories, but I just kind of wanted to say that because normally it's one of the kind of one of the first questions I will ask once the experiences are out there. But you're freely sharing, which thank you for doing so.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
the
I mean, I talk a lot about these experiences, on my own show. So like my listeners, like they get a little bit here and there with
Right,
every episode. Um, I haven't gone into like complete detail of like the things that my mom did and stuff like that. And I
sure.
mean, my sister got it too. It was me and my sister. We were the middle children. My older brother couldn't do any wrong, even though he was fucking skipping school, doing drugs, and my mom was finding pipes. And I mean, back then it was marijuana was like, oh my god, it's the devil's lettuce, like it's the end of the world that you have marijuana. But there was more than just marijuana for him. um and then my little brother, he's the baby, so he's the angel. So
Oh, so there's
um
4 of you in total?
yeah, yeah.
Wow.
And then I looked like my dad.
Oh, yeah.
So
So you got it the worst, it sounds like.
yeah.
Well, and then you're, having a sister, then, for some reason, moms think that their daughters are direct competition to them, and it's weird. Um,
Yeah,
but
that is weird.
it's gross, but it happens a lot. It's really sad. It's really
Yeah,
sad. Oh,
yeah. And then she met a guy and they got married. And my sister got some trauma from him.
sure.
So
That's I think the most diplomatic way to put it.
yeah.
Um, okay, so Kevin, did you have any? I'm sorry, co-host Kevin, did you have any? I keep forgetting. Did you have any questions up to this point?
Um, did your other two brothers say that they have any experiences, or was it just pretty much you and your sister?
It's just pretty much me and my sister. My little brother at the time he was a little bit too young during this. Like he was pretty. I don't know. I guess I can't say he was too young, but he's never said anything because me and my sister have talked to him because so me, my sister, and my little brother are same parents. My older brother is just my mom. So my older brother was in the picture before my dad showed up. So I'm my dad's first, and um, but yeah, no, me and my sister have talked to my little brother um about things, and he doesn't recall anything in that house as far as I know. But maybe one day like something, because sometimes like your memory just gets unlocked. You know what I mean? Um,
Yeah. Something will happen and you'll be like, "Wait a minute.
yeah,
That happened to me. That's what happened to me." Right.
yeah.
So, it does happen. So, is is your dad in the picture at all? Do you have any type of relationship with him?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Well,
Um, it's a lot better now. It was a little rocky there for a while, just because, well, my mom tried to keep us away from him too. Like not
sure.
like absolutely tried. Like if he showed up late, she wouldn't let him take us,
Gotcha. Okay.
um, kind of thing. So and he didn't show up sometimes. So
Sure. Okay.
um, but him and I are pretty good now. We do a lot of stuff together now.
Do you have a relationship with your mom now?
Not really.
Okay.
No.
I'm just curious. I mean, if your parents have any paranormal history that you're aware of.
Well, my dad knows about my show. Well, my mom does too. But I saw her at Thanksgiving, and I told her about the magazine that I was featured in and stuff like that. Um, and she didn't really say anything about like paranormal experiences. And then I was like, I want to, interview my grandfather because he saw a nurse with no face when he was in the hospital when he was
Oh,
in the Navy.
that's horrifying.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And yeah, I've never heard any kind of like stories from her, but my dad is so I get the native I'm part Native American and my dad's is native. Um and he has like some weird stories, but he doesn't attribute it to being like paranormal. He's told a few stories, and he tells really good ghost. When we used to go camping and stuff, when I was a kid and stuff and all that with my uncles, his and my dad's brothers, they would all of them would tell really good ghost stories around the campfire and
I
stuff.
bet.
But my dad's a horror like a horror fan. Well, my dad's a movie fan in general. He was always uh trying to scare us and stuff like that. But I really should like just sit down and ask him. He thinks he saw a UFO too because he listens to this radio station that talks about UFOs and stuff. And he's like, "You got to listen to it. There's people see UFOs." I was like, "Yeah," and he's like, "I'm pretty sure I saw one." And I was like, "Oh, cool." But that
Okay.
like at the time I was like, I don't care. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And now I wish I was like, I need to know more.
Was it coast to coast? Was your dad is a coast to coast listener?
Wow. You want to know what? I think it is. Yeah.
I love that. That's oh no, that's OG right there. He's right. You should listen to it. Um, it's weird. None of us would be here doing these podcasts without good old Art Bell and his Coast to Coast AM. Um,
Yeah.
so co-host Kevin, I'm sorry I interrupted your line of questioning, and I just got curious. Did you have more questions?
Uh, Not that I remember, or not good enough for me to remember at this point in time.
That's okay. Um, so maybe potentially some family history there. Your mom, you don't really talk to her, so probably not. But maybe. What else happened after? So we had the old man.
Yeah.
Um, what else you got?
So this is the last um, thing that happened. Well, it wasn't in the house, but in this while we were living in this house with my grandparents. So my sister and I used to like go out into the woods, and either it was just her and I, or it was with the neighborhood kids and stuff like that. And we would pretend we were hunting monsters, like aliens and stuff like that. And so I remember we had to go, we were going somewhere, and we wanted to go outside and play because we had like a little bit of time. So my mom's like, all right, just, come back inside in like, 20 minutes or so, or something like that. So we go outside, and so the house next to us, there's a little bit of woods, and then there's a house, and then there's a little bit of woods, and then another house.
Okay.
So we went to the other side of the house that's next to us, and there's trails out there. People go out on dirt bikes and four-wheelers and stuff like that out there. And there's a creek and stuff that we always played in. Well, there was like a light dusting of snow, so you could see, footprints from like squirrels and stuff. So we were following these squirrel tracks pretending it was an alien, because like the squirrel tracks like make like like their back feet touch at the same time, like they're almost together, so it looks like one print, like one, so it looks like a triangle kind of thing. So I
Yeah.
was like, oh, these are alien feet, you know what I mean? And we're walking out into the woods pretending. Oh, and I should mention that I used to wear glasses back then when I was a kid, um because it's important for the story. um so we're walking through the woods pretending we're tracking this alien, and all of a sudden it felt like it was like this blue film, like I walked into like a plastic bag or something, but obviously it wasn't. It just like filmed over my eyes, and it was like a tint of blue. And all of a sudden there was no snow, and was it um, maybe crazy, but there was a little village of mushroom people right in front of me, stoking a fire in the center of their little village. They had like little mushroom huts, and like mushroom huts going up like the sides of the trees, and they were like 3 inches tall. And they didn't look like people that were mushrooms. They looked like mushrooms. Like they had no
Hmm.
people-y thing. Like I couldn't see eyes, a face, or anything. They were just mushrooms that were moving around and picking up sticks and throwing them into a fire. And as soon as like I could see them, it was like a good second of them like throwing some sticks in the fire, and there was a lot of them. And they just kind of like turned to me, although they didn't have a face. There was like a front seeming
Sure.
thing to them. You know what I mean? Um, and then I get a tap, like a light tap on the back of my head, and like my head just kind of like lurches forward really quick, and my glasses fall off my face. And there's something, I feel something on my shoulder, so I turn my head, and there's a mushroom on my shoulder. And he like spoke to me telepathically, and he's like, "You don't need those." And I go, "My glasses?" And he goes, "Yes." And then, right as soon as he said yes, like it was like a flip of a switch, and I'm staring at my sister instead of this mushroom that's on my shoulder. And my sister's like, "Are you all right?" I was like, "Yeah, but my glasses just fell off my face." She's like, "Oh shit, where are they?" Well, I mean, she didn't swear, but she was like, "Oh my god, where are they?" Um, and I got down on my hands and knees because I just wanted to get my glasses in it, and my vision wasn't the greatest. And all of a sudden, you just hear crack, and
Oh.
she stepped on my glasses, and I went into this like complete panic mode. So like I completely forgot to tell her about this experience that I just fucking had, this crazy experience. um and then I just completely forgot about it. But so I run home with these broken glasses, and my mom's like, you have an appointment coming up, I'm not gonna get you a new pair. Um, I'm not gonna spend the money on a new pair for them to just change your prescription. And I was like, fucking A. So I had to go 2 weeks without glasses. Um, and then we're in the office, and my doctor's testing my eyes, and he just like he's going over everything, and he goes, you don't need glasses. He goes, your eyes are fine. I was like, what?
Interesting.
And he's like, you got 20/20 vision here. He's like, maybe just get a pair for like watching TV or reading a book or something. He goes, but it's really weird. Your eyes are a lot better already.
Hmm.
So
So you didn't get new glasses?
so I didn't get new glasses. So
Of
I
course,
was like, well, I
obviously,
guess I'm not gonna spend any money then.
right. Obviously, that's the moral of this story. No, so okay, so let's go back to the encounter itself. Um, w- I mean, did you when the doctor said that you didn't need glasses? Um, did you still recall at that point? Because I know you'd said you'd kind of forgotten about it. I didn't know if you just forgot about it, period, and was just worried about glasses, and then maybe later on
Uh,
down the line, or were you lucid that that had happened sitting there at the doctor's office?
no, it completely left my memory
Okay.
for until I was an adult. Actually, so I did regression therapy because they're
Hmm.
um with like the trauma. I just wanted to heal from my childhood and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So I was doing regression therapy, and this came out of it. And I remember everything about it organically, other than the mushroom people specifically.
So
So
even like now, you don't actually remember the mushroom people,
technically, no.
right? It came
Um,
through the regression therapy.
exactly.
Gotcha. Interesting. Have you have you looked, because I mean that's a new one for me. I've never heard anything like that.
Yeah, I've been actually trying to look for similar experiences, and ever since I that came out, and I've talked to a few people about it, and
Mm,
nobody seems to really have anything to attribute it to.
interesting. That's interesting. I wonder if they just maybe, I mean, maybe they looked differently, right? And just how it was coming out in your memory is that they were mushroom people, but maybe they were creatures, maybe they were wearing hats, maybe there was something else there. Have you ever done well? So it sounds like your regression therapy was more for your childhood trauma rather than your paranormal experiences. Have you ever just tried to hyper focus on that event in a session?
I have not, no.
Okay. That's honest. That's a neat one. I'm not saying that's not what happened. Just, you got to wonder how these things
Right,
manifest.
right.
That is interesting. And the blue film is interesting. So, and again, I understand it's your experience that you are getting kind of from a third party perspective. Do you know any this was more like a maybe like a goop, like a soap bubble, maybe, or was this more like a plasticky film? Do you know?
No, I just know that like it's hard to explain, really. It was just like all of a sudden I was seeing a blue tint, like everything looked bluish,
Oh, okay.
kind of thing. Like almost like I put like a um contacts in, and they're like tinted blue
Gotcha.
or
Okay.
something.
Right. Blue filter. Almost like
Yeah.
you you got dropped off into a Twilight movie. Um
Yes.
I mean,
Uh
it's, it was all blue. Um
yeah, I talked to Tony Merkel, and
okay.
he's like, that sounds like a portal
It
to
does.
me.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't going to say it, but yeah, it is what it sounds like. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I was thinking
Yeah.
too.
Interesting. Do you remember? I mean, do you or you do organically remember your sister stepping on your glasses, going to the doctor? Like you remember those parts?
Yes, yeah, I
Okay.
remember all that.
Okay. Co-host Kevin, any questions?
I actually have three questions.
Go ahead.
So, since you say your sister was there, did you ask your sister about the experience so that she could like give some insight about like, oh hey, were you staying there the entire time? Did you like freeze or anything like that? If that makes sense.
So we actually, because the regression was like last year or so, it was like
Oh,
probably maybe not last year, maybe 2 years ago now. Because I keep thinking that it's 2023, but um, it was right before I started the podcast. Um, and when my sister came on to be the co-host, I told her about it, and she's like, you know, I don't really remember anything. She's like, I remember we used to go out in the woods a lot. She goes, I do remember like uh I remember stepping on your glasses, and I remember you just kind of like standing there for a quick second, and I was just like thought you saw something like an animal or something, or you were pretending you saw an alien. So I asked you if you were okay, and then you said your glasses had fallen. So that was her perspective.
Hmm.
So it was like for her, from her perspective, it was like a quick like snap of your. It was just like
just a couple of
seconds.
seconds of you
Yeah,
standing
where to
there.
me it felt like it was a couple minutes.
Gotcha.
Um, through the therapy, do you remember if like you found out how many, I guess you would call them mushroom people were there? Like how many people were there, how many buildings were there, etc.
Number wise, no. It was a pretty big group though. I mean, it just looked like a normal village where it had like a center to it, which is where the fire was. And then they had like little roads, well, not roads, but I guess it could have been roads, and then it almost like houses going alongside these like paths and stuff, and then they would go up the sides of the trees and stuff like that. But as far as like number wise, I couldn't tell you.
Okay. Last question is, how long have you had glasses leading up to that point? And do you remember what was the reason why you got the glasses to begin with? Just curious.
Yes. So the let's see. So this was I was 10. So I had gotten the glasses when I was 7 or 8. I was having a hard time seeing. Everything was kind of blurry. And I was getting a lot of migraines. So um, they just felt like glasses would help subside the migraines, and clear my vision.
Okay.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. So that was the last experience you had growing up in this house, essentially. Well, I guess that's how we'll say it, is by houses, right?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
since that seems to be, how you're remembering it. So let's go with that. So then what happened from there?
So my mother met this guy. They got married. We got an apartment in another town. Um, and my sister had we me and my sister used to stay up at night. Well, we had his my stepdad's kids would come in the summer because he was from New Mexico, and his kids, or no, Arizona. His kids lived in Arizona, and we used to sit in my sister's room and like act like we were ghost hunting and stuff like that. And um, my sister has a pretty good story. I can't remember it, but I'm just saying like something happened there, but I just can't remember the story.
Sure.
It had something to do with like a bathroom door and stuff like that. Oh, a doppelganger. That's what it was. She thought she
Ooh.
saw me walking into the living room, and my stepsister had come into her room, and she's like, did you see Kevin out there? And my stepsister's like, no, he's not. He's in his room. And she's like, I just watched him walk by. And she's like, nobody's out there. So they both got up and went out there in the living room, and I wasn't there. Um, but I remember in that particular apartment building just hearing like weird noises and doors opening, um, oddly, but like nothing. like standout ish to
Mhm.
me happened there. Um, but I did try to take my own life again at 13, and then just like for a few years after that, it was just never nothing ever happened that I can
Interesting.
recall organically for a while until I was an adult, I think. Well, yeah. Yeah, I'll leave it at that
Okay.
there.
So, well, let me see. So sometimes, when when an abusive parent partners up, we already kind of know what this looked like for your sister, but sometimes it can actually alleviate some of the abuse because the parent is selfish, so they're wrapped up in the new partner. What was your experience like? Was it the same? Was it better? Was it worse?
It did get a little bit better for me, to be
Okay.
honest. But um, I also I wasn't allowed to do things. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Sure.
Like I always had to be inside when we
Okay.
lived in this apartment, and I was just like, I don't want to be inside.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because where we moved to was more of like a city area. So, and I remember like somebody got shot like right outside our apartment,
Oh.
out back by the dumpster where I go and throw the trash.
Oh.
So, um, I
So
guess
it's
there's
kind of reasonable as to why you shouldn't be running around outside.
yeah,
It sounds like
yeah,
so maybe
um,
some nice logic there somewhere.
yeah, a little bit. So, like,
Okay.
my friends always like, oh, come to the library, and then I was never allowed to go to the library. I was never allowed to go to the movies. And I
Yeah.
went into like this like wicked weird depression kind of thing because like I couldn't like I was always in the house,
Right.
and that's not natural.
No, right. It's not. We're pack animals. That's what we do. So that's, I don't blame you one bit. But your sister had this doppelganger experience. Did she continue to have experiences that you know of, growing,
She
in that house?
in this she's had like a few. I just can't remember. She's told
That's
me
okay.
all of them. But my dad lived in this house in Claremont too, around this same time, I think, of living in this apartment, and she saw a doppelganger of me walking at that house too. She's like, and I think it was a doppelganger of my cousin too. She saw both of us walk into the living room, and she followed us because she like I don't know, she started talking or whatever, and she walked in. She's like I was right behind you guys, and I started talking to you, and I walk into the living room like right after you did, and you weren't there. She
Interesting.
goes, and then I turned around and you were coming inside from
Mhm.
the outside. And I
Interesting.
was
Well,
like,
sounds like
oh,
your sister
weird.
needs to come on this show. If she would like to.
I'm sure she would.
We'll talk to her about it. Just trying to draw correlations here between the amounts of trauma being bestowed and the experiences.
Yeah.
Is there a tie there directly? I can't say for sure. In your case, it would seem so, but does that always happen? Not necessarily.
Mm.
But yeah, that's where my brain goes anyway. I guess. Again, having this be some type of insight to the listeners as to how I conduct myself when talking to people like Weird Kevin. Uh, okay, so let's get into adulthood then. What has your adulthood been like with the paranormal?
All right. So it kind of like ramped up recently. So, but I'll tell these two stories real quick that happened a few years ago. So I believe it was like fall-ish. It was just becoming fall in 2014. Um, I was living in this like little house out in the middle of the woods, in the middle of nowhere, away from everybody. Couldn't see my neighbors and everything like that. And there's farms everywhere. I loved it. I could walk right out back and shoot my guns. Like I had a little shooting range and stuff like that. We'd go hunting right out back. But so one day I was coming home from work. It was 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and it was it was I was like just about to my driveway, and this huge ass coyote comes walking across the street, and I was like, I stopped. It stopped in the middle of the road, so I stopped, and it stared at me, and it looked like it was just freaking like staring into my soul, like into my eyes, like eyes. Our eyes were meeting, and I was like, this fucking thing is way too big to be a coyote. I was like, it kind of looks like a wolf, but it has like the brown and
Hmm.
the sandy-ish color scheme to it, like a coyote does.
Yeah.
Um, I don't think I've ever seen a wolf at that color. They're usually black or gray, and
Hmm.
um, I think white too. Uh, but I was staring at it, and it was staring at me, and I was just like, "You're big. Are you actually a dog, or like what are you?" And it just like stared at me for what felt like forever. Again, it was probably only like a minute or two, and then it decided to walk into the woods. And so I drove up to where it entered the woods, and I'm watching it walk in the woods, and it stopped and turned to look at me again. And I was like, "Whoa, that's fucking weird. How'd you know that I was just like, I don't know." It just felt like it was just like, I know you're watching me. I'm gonna stop and stare at you again. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And so it stared at me again for like a couple seconds, and then it turned around and started walking up this like little embankment. And there's this huge ass pine tree right in its direction that it was going. And it was about to go, so it was like a hump, like in the ground. So it got right next to the pine tree, so it had to get over this hump, and then there was like a little bit of a drop off on the other side. And it I sw- I swear to God, um this fucking thing's paw turned into a human hand and rested on the pine tree to like help it get over this hump or something.
Interesting.
It it was just like the weirdest thing. It crawled over this hump like a human, and the paw turned into a fucking human hand, and it just like catapulted it or like pushed itself off the tree over this hump, and then it was gone. And I remember just like I screamed. I was like, "Whoa, what the fuck?" And then I pulled into my house real quick, because I mean it was right, my house is right there. It
Hmm.
was like 2 seconds away from this where this coyote went across the street, and I ran inside, and I told my ex-wife was sitting there doing the dishes. I was like, "You'll never believe what the fuck I just saw." And she's like, "What'd you see?" I was like, I was like, "There was a coyote that just crossed the road." She's like, "In the middle of the day?" And I was like, "Yes." She's like, "That's fucking weird." And I was like, "I know, right? But the weirdest fucking thing is that its paw turned into a fucking hand." And she's like, "Oh my God, you're fucking crazy." And I go, "No, I swear to God, I saw this." I was like, "There's no way that I did not see this happen." I was like, I mean, he was pretty far away, but I could still see him pretty good. Like, there's no leaves. There was no like undergrowth of like all these saplings and stuff. It was just, I could see straight to him. And he was like 20 yards, 25 yards, maybe 30 yards away from me, and I could see him pretty fucking good. Unless maybe I am crazy, but that freaking paw was turned into five fucking fingers. Well, four fingers and a thumb.
Wow. So, did you watch it turn back into a paw?
No, it just once he got over that hump, he was gone.
I mean, I'm sure you've had the thought that I am already having currently, of what this could be. But I mean, what do you think is up with that? You already know what I think.
um, the best thing that I could say it was a skinwalker.
Yeah. And I don't say that lightly at all. A lot of people are like, "Oh, it's a skinwalker," and I'm like, "No, it's not a skinwalker because of this. It's not." Skinwalkers usually they just appear like normal animals that look a
Yeah.
little off. and I'd say that's a little off.
This is very off.
You know, can you just let's get some comic relief in here. Can you imagine if our dogs just like whenever they wanted to grab something, their paws just turned into hands just for that moment,
Oh, I'd be in so much trouble with my dog if he could
right?
do that. Oh,
They just
Me
open the
too.
door,
Like
let themselves out, grab the food. It's fine.
every time I have food on the counter, my dog just like like if I have snacks or something that I'm like going back for like repeatedly, she'll literally follow me from the living room into the kitchen because she knows that I'm grabbing food. If she could if she could turn her paws into hands, she'd be grabbing that shit too.
Right.
I'd be like, "Whoa, what the hell is this?"
My dog's a skinwalker. Um, no, wow, that is like I said. I definitely don't throw that around lightly because it's very misused, and
Yes, yeah, I agree.
therefore misappropriated. But that I mean that sounds like a very classic case of skinwalker.
Yeah.
Co-host Kevin, what do you think?
uh, definitely unusual.
Hmm.
Um, Probably in the same boat as you guys because I've never heard a story before where like, oh hey, just a portion of the thing in question turns into like a freaking human hand
Hmm.
to jump over a log, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
I'm like, yeah, uh, no idea.
Aren't you glad that you're the other Kevin and not weird Kevin?
Well, no, because I feel like that'd be an interesting story to
Oh,
tell
okay.
around the cooler, you know?
Dude, I've looked at coyotes completely different ever since this.
Yeah, I'd imagine everyone you see, you're like staring at their paws, like, what's gonna happen?
Yeah, because they used to come in my yard all the time too,
Yeah.
at this house too. At night, my dogs would react to it. I had two dogs at the time when I lived in this house, so every once in a great while, I'll wake up to them barking, and there'd be coyotes in my yard, and then I would just stare at them from the window, like, all right, which one are you? Which one
Yeah,
are
I don't trust you.
you?
Which is par for the course for coyotes in general. To be honest with you, I mean, there's a reason why they're revered as tricksters and why skinwalkers tend to turn into them. Actually,
Yeah,
so that's I don't blame you. Um,
yeah,
okay, well that was an interesting. And then you had another one before common. I guess modern day is what we're getting to eventually, right? You had another one at this
yes.
house. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, so this one also has to do with coyotes.
Okay.
So, it's 2016. Um, it was summer, I believe. And no, yeah, I think it was summer. So there's a rock wall that goes along the right around the entire property because Maine, I don't know if any other states have done this, but I see it in like Maine and New Hampshire a lot where like all these like rural areas are like the land is marked by these rock walls. So I had one around this property, and there one of the rocks in this rock wall was like this huge ass boulder, and it was taller than me. And it was just to the left of the house. So um, my ex-wife and I had split up a few months prior to this, and so I was alone in the house. It was just me and my dogs, and I was woken up to them barking, and then I could hear barking outside, and I was like, "Fucking coyotes!" Um, so I got up just to like, be like, "Which one are you? Are you gonna? Am I gonna see some hands or something?" So I just like watched, and um, there's a field on the side on the left side as well, on the other side of the rock wall. So there's like a little bit of a tree line. So there's a couple trees, and then the rock wall, and then a couple trees, and then this huge wide open field, and then a farm. Um, and the moonlight was just bright enough to where I could see in the field, you know what I mean? But like the whole tree line was shaded. So I could see them running up and down um the field. And but because they're barking, my dogs can hear the barking, so my dogs are freaking out. And then as I'm watching them, this other I say it's a female, I don't know, but it was a little tiny, and it comes limping down my driveway. My driveway is really long, and I could see it like in the moonlight. I was like, "What the fuck?" I was like, "What's wrong with this fucking thing?" So I leave my bedroom and I go to the front door. My dogs follow me, and I turn the outside light on, and this thing is whimpering and like crying and walking down my driveway. And I was like, this fucking thing's hurt. And like, I was about to like turn around and put my shoes on to go like check it. And then I just like, I don't know, something told me to look where the others are. And so I look back towards the field, and right where that boulder is two red eyes like staring at me. And then like I got that fucking um sense of doom, like that sense of dread where like I'm just like I'm gonna fucking die kind of like thing. And I was just like, what the fuck is that? And I'm staring at it, and it's just these two fucking. They were close, and like they were so close together. That's why I call them eyes. Because usually whenever I see anything red in the woods, I try to like be like, oh, the cell phone tower, like stuff like
Sure.
that. But they were like two small balls right next to each other to be eyes, almost like human head, kind of like close together for eyes. And I was like, "Whoa, what the fuck is that?" And my dogs were like scratching at the door at the time. And then as soon as I felt scared, my dogs stopped barking, and I shut the light off outside. And then as soon as I shut the light off, that coyote in my driveway just turns around and bolts up the driveway. And then I look back to that rock, and then the eyes are higher,
Hmm.
almost like something is standing on that boulder. Like it's a lot higher than it was. And I was like, fuck this. And went and I grabbed my rifle, and both my dogs and I sat on my couch, and I just sat there with I put the magazine in, I freaking slid the bolt action, and I put a round in the chamber, and I just sat there with my rifle in my lap and till I fell asleep to the like I fell asleep sitting. So like my neck was just back, and I was staring at the ceiling, and that's how I woke up, staring at the ceiling and with
Wow.
this wicked neck pain. But I was so scared to the point where I didn't want to get back in my bed.
Yeah.
I felt like I had to be ready, and my dogs just both sat there with me without making any noise. And the coyotes continued to bark too. And when the coyotes are barking, my dogs are always barking.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
I don't know
in
what.
a yelling match with the coyotes, that happens.
Pretty much, yeah. So I
Um,
don't
Go
know
ahead.
what it was.
What do you think made you feel so scared? Was it just the sight? I mean, because you're talking, you've grown up with shadow people and old men holding their intestines, and I mean, what was it about this that really got to you? Do you know? I mean, can you decipher that at all?
I really don't know. I felt like I was going to be murdered. I don't know what it was about the situation or whatever. I just felt like something wanted to kill me.
Hmm. I mean, that's a scary feeling for sure. Um,
Yeah.
totally valid. Interesting. Sometimes in these experiences, people do describe, having this overwhelming sense of dread or fear, and it's not quite. It's not really. They're not under attack. They're not being
Mhm.
harmed. It just seems to, So it's kind of the question of whatever it is. Does it cause that? Is it doing it to you on purpose? Is it making you feel that way, or is it just being in that situation that is generally scary? Um, which again, I don't have the answer to. I wish I did. If I catch one of
I
these
wish I
things, I'll
did too.
ask him. Co-host Kevin, any comments on that experience?
Two things. First, when you said that the coyote was limping, that made me immediately think to like how you hear these stories about coyotes would like play with dogs, if you will, like quote unquote play with them, and, like entice the dog back to the woods so that the rest of the pack could basically have a free dinner, right?
Right.
And second thing, um, so you probably have some idea of like how tall the rock is because it's on her property. How far above the rock would you say the two, well, a pair of eyes or red lights would be?
So the rock was had to be at least 6 feet tall or so because I'm 5'10" and it was just a little bit taller than me.
Oh wow,
So it was probably a few inches taller than that rock. So
interesting.
somewhere's between 6'5" to 7 feet tall.
Now, for that rock, it's like because rocks come in like different sizes and shapes and whatnot. Is it like a straight up and down rock, cylinderish, or like can something easily like jump onto the top of it? Like, is it slanted?
Yeah, so it had like a couple grooves in it because my kids used to climb. The only reason why I know that this rock was how tall it was because my kids used to walk on the rock wall and they would climb on this specific rock. So like I'd be out there and there's like grooves in it. It wasn't so much cylinder, but it was kind of like wide at the base, but it kind of like um narrowed toward the top, but there was like a flat part at the top that they like to like climb up onto and sit and stuff like that. So
It's very much
like
wall shaped, is what you're saying.
Okay,
yeah, yeah. So like that very top, like you could stand on it too if you wanted to.
Mhm.
because I'm just trying to think like how if it was like a coyote or like some critter like a coyote,
Yeah.
would it easily be able to climb up that rock, or like you know what I mean?
Yeah. For a coyote, I feel like they wouldn't be able to, but at the same time, you never know what they're capable of
Yeah, that's fair.
for sure.
Hmm. Definitely interesting.
So some people think that animals, in general, maybe have a sense of the paranormal. I will tell you right now, my cat will not leave me the fuck alone, and maybe it's just being a cat, but like I have had to yell at him multiple times, and he's like, no.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, my dog has definitely seen some stuff.
yeah, I mean,
I only have one now.
okay, yeah, I mean, maybe it's nothing, but it's just, usually he's not this persistent, so I hear the dog. The dog's like, yeah, I'm keeping watch too. Um, wow, very interesting. And then so this was the final significant um incidents at your let me kind of just track back a little bit. When you're telling these stories and I shouldn't say stories, when you're telling these experiences that you've had, were there smaller stuff that was happening kind of in between that just it just happened so often that it was just part of your daily life, or is just you've only had these major experiences?
Um, Through that time, it was only those two experiences.
Oh, okay.
Um, it wasn't until I moved into this house that things kind of started happening more consistently.
Regularly, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I just thought I'd ask. Sometimes it's hard to know. Sometimes you're like, was that weird, or am I just being weird, or is it too late? I need to go to bed. What's happening?
Yeah.
It just depends on who you are. Okay, so then the next saga. This is now we're now on to modern day, right? We're on to your current home. Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay.
correct.
Okay. Well, go ahead. Tell us about what's going on. What's been going on recently?
All right. So, 2 years ago, when I first moved into this house, the very first thing that I experienced here was what I think is my uncle. So, my uncle passed away a few years ago. He is probably the biggest male role model I've ever had.
Okay.
Um, he was an EMT. I looked up to him a lot. I thought that, what he was. He was like so um he was just the epitome of what I feel like a man should be. Um nicest guy, would give you the shirt off his back, kind of thing.
Sure.
But anyways, so um I took his death pretty fucking hard, and I was going through this really terrible breakup when I bought this house. And it was a girl I thought I was gonna be with her forever. I proposed to her. I did this elaborate proposal and everything and all that. So like my vibration was super low.
Sure.
Um, and I was laying in bed with my dog, and I had just kind of woken up, so I'm just kind of like laying there, like, ugh, do I want to get up or whatever? And my dog just kind of like lifts her head, like she's looking at somebody coming into the room, and she's just like staring at the doorway. And I'm looking at her, and like I'm laying on my stomach with my leg up to like so that it's bent at the hip and then bent at the knee.
Okay.
So her head was resting on that knee, and I'm looking at her, and um I feel something like I feel weight on my bed behind me, like somebody just sat down on my bed, and I was just like, "What's that?" And then she put her head down, like, you know, everything's okay, kind of thing. Like
Hmm.
this isn't anything to worry about. So I'm laying there, and then all of a sudden I just got like this sensation that it was like my uncle, like it was almost like intuition kind of thing. And it was basically like this it was just like this feel good warm feeling, but I also had like paralysis with it. Like I was too scared to move, or well, not scared, but like I couldn't move
Hmm.
kind of thing. And I just, I felt good. Like everything's gonna it was almost like he was there to say everything's gonna be okay kind of thing. Um and then probably 2 to 5 minutes later, I finally just turned around. Nobody was there, and that was it. And I was just like, "Oh, thanks." I sat up and I was just like, "Thanks for visiting."
Wow.
So
That's a nice story. That's a wholesome story.
Mm-hmm.
It's
yeah,
nice to have
yeah.
that out of,
This is my yeah, it's my favorite one, I think, just because I don't know if it was him. It just felt like it was him.
sure. Sure. And I mean, what's the harm in that?
Yeah,
Sounds like it was more
exactly.
helpful than anything. That's very neat. And just an overwhelming sense of just kind of knowing and feeling the same type of, maybe the same type of presence, a familiar presence that you would feel, while you're usually around them. I'm assuming.
Yeah. Yes.
Wow, very cool. Okay, well, it sounds like the new house is off to a good start.
Yeah. Well, nothing like negative has happened. It's just like
Oh,
weird stuff. So actually, I'm sorry, there was this one really scary incident. But so I do see the shadow people are back.
okay,
I see them in the hallway, where upstairs in the upstairs hallway all the time. They're always in different positions. But if I walk towards them, they disappear.
okay.
But if I stay where I'm at, they'll stay there.
And they've never been malicious, it sounds like they're just shadow people, which are intimidating, it sounds like.
Yeah. They're just observing. I had a friend come over. He came over for the first time ever, his first and only time he's ever been here. And at the foot of the stairs is the bathroom. The bathroom's right off to the right, and then you turn left to the kitchen, to the rest of the house. And he went to the bathroom. We were just sitting out on my porch drinking a beer, and he went to the bathroom, and he comes back out onto the porch, and he goes, uh, "Your upstairs is really dark." And I go, "Yeah." I was like, um, "I gotta raise the roof because it's like slanted in, so like there's a slant into the house."
Hmm.
I was like, "I should raise that up straight, get a new roof and stuff like that, and maybe put windows there. And he's like, no, man, it's dark. There's a dark energy up there in that hallway.
Oh,
And I was like, what? He's like, no, I'm serious. I was like, no, you're fucking kidding me. But like right after he said that, like after he left, I was like, well, I mean, there's shadow people, but like, there's nothing happening negatively. So, um, some some people that I talked to, one woman said that she like consulted this pendulum and was asking the pendulum questions about, she was like tapping into my energy or whatever, and it said that the shadow people didn't have good intentions and stuff like that. So I cleansed the house. They went away. They were gone for a while. And then one night, I'm laying in bed, and I had just like I was starting to drift off to sleep. So this girl that I'm seeing, actually she we're still together. Um, but I kind of feel I feel like this situation is kind of like a bad omen for the relationship. I don't know if it is or
yeah.
not, but I just kind of like feel like it is. Uh, so um, she had just left to go home, and she lives like an hour and a half away. And I'm laying in bed, and I hear I'm about to fall asleep, and I hear my name called. It's just like Kevin, and I'm just like, what? And I like open my eyes, and the shadow figure is coming into my room. And this is the first time like I could
Oh,
tell like any kind of like distinctive things. Like, so it was long flowing hair, kind of like hers. So like I I feel like, and it was like a womanly figure. Um, so the hips and chest and stuff like that. Um, I was just like, what the fuck? And it was just coming in at me. And the best way that I can describe it, which is makes it even creepier to me, and it kind of gives me chills, is that like it was walking towards me like fucking um what the fuck is his name? C3PO from Star Wars. Like
oh,
walking like that, like a robot kind of thing.
rigid.
Yeah. And I I was in paralysis once again. And I was like, what the fuck? What the fuck? And I couldn't turn my head, but I like, darted my eyes to the side, and I could see my phone. And I really wanted to grab my phone, and my hand was right there. So I start wiggling my fingers because I can't move my arm. So I start wiggling my fingers to try to inch my hand towards my phone to grab it. And this thing is about to like get onto my bed, and then all of a sudden I just like break out, and I grab my phone, and I light up the light on my phone, and there's nothing there. And I was just like, holy shit. And then I laid there for a minute, and I was just like, that was fucking scary, because it was raising my heartbeat too. Like my blood was fucking pumping. Um and I remember I was like, in that instant too, I was just like, I have to fucking take a piss. That means I have to get up and go into the hallway where this thing just came from.
Yeah.
And so I sat there for a minute, and I was like, do I really have to pee? I'm going to try and go back to sleep. So I just laid there, and I was like, no, I have to go to the bathroom. So I get up, and I go out into the hallway, and I'm standing in the doorway, and I said, if you're out here, I'm gonna be very upset. I was like, if you scare me, we're gonna have problems. I was like, you're not welcome here if you have negative intentions. And then just as I said that, I jumped out like fucking cause so like to the right of the doorway is the stairs, and then to the left is the other two bedrooms. So there's like a tiny bit of a hallway. So I jumped out fucking karate chopping the air like yeah, and fucking nothing was there. So that was good
All the
because I don't know.
theatrics for nothing.
Yeah, and I was
You
just
would have
like,
got him good though.
yeah, if shadow people could get gotten, you know what I mean?
Right.
So I just I did that, and then I just stood there for a minute, and I was like, that's what I thought. Like, cuz I was kind of disappointed that nothing was there. And then I just yelled, that's what I thought. And then I went to the bathroom. And then I didn't once I after I was done going to the bathroom, I didn't want to come upstairs. And it took me like 5 minutes to walk up my stairs, and then I finally did. And then yeah, so um, that was that was pretty creepy too. Um,
Yeah.
I'd put
Well,
that on the same level as the red eyes, I think.
yeah, that sounds really horrifying. That's interesting. Have the shadow people ever been female figures before?
Never, never. I could
Oh,
never tell like any distinguishing um attributes to any of them. You know what
wow.
I mean?
So this, I mean, potentially it could have been something entirely different.
True.
Yeah,
It could have been something pretending to be a shadow figure or whatever. Um, maybe an old hag. Maybe that's why I felt like the paralysis or
sure.
whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. That's wow, that's very interesting. I'm glad you get to go pee in peace. Well,
Yeah, me
as
too.
close as you can get after experiencing something like that, and that you didn't pee your pants, because that's what I would do. Um,
Yes. That would have been bad. I would have been ashamed, and then I would have had to buy a brand new bed because I wouldn't have not been able to. I wouldn't have cleaned it and then been felt comfortable enough to be on
right.
it, even
Like
though I cleaned it. You know what I
I know I peed in this.
mean?
That's you do but it is those middle of the night encounters are very they're very scary. And I don't know if it's just because, we're always told to be afraid of the dark our whole lives. you know.
Yeah.
And that's what makes them worse, or if it just they legitimately are horrifying in their own right. But it's always worse. It's always worse at night. That's the rule.
Absolutely. The woods at night too, especially.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, the woods at night, or I have a history of driving around with friends, in the woods and stuff, and we've gone at night and we've gone during the day, and during the day it's nothing. At nighttime, it's like a whole new place.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I got dared to go into this like abandoned it was the mill, it was a part of the mills, but it was just like this little building. And all the kids that were trying to get me to go in were a lot bigger than me at the time because I think I was like a freshman in high school, and these guys were like juniors and seniors, and some of them were pretty big, like 6'5", 6'3", and like 200 pounds. I was back then. Um, I was like fucking Jesus Christ. I was like 120 in my freshman year or something in that area anyway. Which is weird because I'm like 220 now, so it's weird to me that I was ever that light. But I remember them pushing me and my buddy in through the door, and then I was just like, I felt so scared, and we started like actually walking around because they wouldn't let us out. Um, and there was beds everywhere and like beer bottles and stuff. I was like, we're like, this somebody's living here.
Yeah,
Fuck this shit. I was like, it's creepy at night though. Like it almost looks like it's a place that fucking people get murdered. You know what I mean?
right. Yeah. Well, and I mean, I'll tell you, I go to many places where like clearly it's being used for something, and you don't want to find out who's using it.
No, no, never.
Like, I don't care if it's just some homeless person that's just trying to get out of the element. Like, I don't care. I'm not interested. Like, I'll just leave.
Yeah,
you
me
know,
neither. Fuck it.
sorry, ghost. We're gonna have to do this another day.
Absolutely. I agree with that sentiment.
So, what else is going on at the current house?
So there's a lot of weird fucking noises.
Okay,
Like I told you about earlier too, like the knock on my door to the studio.
right.
Um, it sounds like every sometimes when I'm downstairs, it sounds like somebody's walking around up here when nobody's here.
Mm.
All these noises happen when I'm alone, like when it's just me. When I have my kids here, like nothing ever happens. Well, I can't say that actually. My kids have been here and I've seen the shadow figures in the hallway, but they just like stare. They're just standing there. Um, but yeah, it sounds like sometimes it sounds like somebody's walking. Sometimes it sounds like somebody's inside the wall, just like moving
Hmm,
around.
interesting.
Which
Have
could be mice, I guess, but it sounds like a person, like heavy enough to be a person. It doesn't sound like, you know. like light enough to be mice.
Yeah, I was gonna ask if you've ruled out, raccoons or opossums or, you know, chipmunks.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure that there's there might be an animal in the attic,
Hmm.
um, but I just haven't figured out how to get to it,
Yeah.
to figure out what animal it is, um, because I don't have access to the attic from inside the house. Like I have to go outside and go through that vent thing. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay.
Um, but yeah, no, I hear footsteps. Sometimes, like I'll hear a couple footsteps on the stairs too.
Hmm.
Um, and then yeah, it's just the random noises. And my daughter saw somebody standing on my bed one day, a couple months ago. She was walking by and she walked by my room and somebody was standing on my bed. She's like stopped to take a double take. Well, she walked by, saw the person like standing on my bed and went into her room, and then she said she stood there for a minute and then went back by because she was like a little afraid, and there was nobody there.
And your kids are what are their ages again?
They're 15 and 12.
Right. So they're at an age where I mean, they not that they're a great judge of character. Well, they might be, but they're lucid enough to understand when things are strange.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
It's not like a
absolutely.
2-year-old. Which I don't know what's more horrifying, 2-year-old seeing it or a 15-year-old seeing it. That's both pretty scary.
Yeah, it is. It's all scary.
Do
Um,
you have any theories as to why this activity seems to have ramped up in your current life and where you're at?
um, I just think I think this particular house is just has energy, um, in it, and the I'm living here, and then I'm also talking to people about their ghostly encounters and stuff like that on a weekly basis.
Hmm.
And I kind of think that that gives it energy too.
Sure,
Um, and things can come through, through the internet, through the interwebs.
sure.
Um,
I
and
saw
and
Gremlins too. I know how that works.
that's
I hope people get
a
that
good
reference.
movie. That's a good movie, by the way. One of my favorites. Actually, used to watch it with my uncle all the time.
It's very good.
Um, and yeah, no, I just think the fact that we're here, we're living in it, um, I think it just has energy left. It was built in the 40s,
Gotcha. Maybe they
so
feel comfortable to be themselves around you?
they could be. I mean, they could be standing right here listening to the weird conversations that I have all the time. You
Being
know,
flattered when you talk about them. Like, that was me. He's talking
yeah.
about me. I think that could be a possibility. Co-host Kevin, what do you got over there?
So, one question. Oh, sorry about the dog making noise earlier.
Oh, that
The
was your
one,
dog making noise.
yeah, the one time he comes in this room is one time I'm recording.
he's,
I
g-
apologize
he's
about
got to make all the noise. That's
that.
okay.
So I know that you mentioned before that about the ghost people, well, not ghost people, shadow people in your grandfather's basement. Are the ones you're seeing now? Do they give off like the same vibe? If that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty much they even look the same, you know what I mean? Like there's no distinguishing features or anything, and they're just hanging out.
Because I'm curious if it was more of a they just kind of came with a house, or if they kind of just like looking after you. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean maybe both, maybe a little bit of both. Um, I had a medium tell me that my great grandmother has been with me ever since she's passed, and she passed when I was like 3. Um, and she gave me some obviously like um validating things. Like she was saying a lot of validating things that made let me know that it was my great grandmother. And I almost kind of like wonder if maybe, because I don't see two at the same time. It's always one shadow person. You know what I mean? So like maybe it's her. I don't. Maybe she's watching. You know what I mean?
That's interesting. But you said they're all different shapes and sizes.
That's true. That I did say that. You're right.
It doesn't mean they're not the same thing. It just depends on what a shadow person is, and unfortunately, none of us have that answer. But,
And we
just
may never have that answer.
right, exactly. What I what I think of when you're talking about these shadow people just hanging around. You're like trying to get into the linen closet, and the shadow person's right there, and you're like, "Excuse me," they just ignore you.
Yeah. That's kind of like what it felt like in my grandparents' basement, for sure.
You
Like
just got so
that,
used to it being a thing.
yeah. Um, there would be times like, because usually when I saw them in the basement, I was alone. But there was like one Thanksgiving I remember too that, there was a bunch of us in the basement. We were like jumping off this table to grab onto this bar. And my cousin, fucking, he jumps and he grabs onto, like, we were like grabbing onto the bar and like doing like a chin up and then, swinging out or
Mhm.
whatever.
Shit, kids do.
Um, yeah, like catapulting ourselves further or whatever. And my cousin slipped and fucking banged to the back of his head right off the concrete floor.
Ooh.
And right as that happened, I looked up and there was a shadow person like directly in front of me, like straight in, like not like literally right in front of me, but it like when I looked up, it was straight across the room standing in the corner. I was like, oh, hey, like I mean, I didn't say I didn't acknowledge it or like anything. I just saw it, and then I was like, oh, my cousin's hurt, so let's help him, kind of
That
thing,
kind of sounds maternal in a way, you
What do you
know.
mean?
So the fact that it shows up, right when an injury occurs,
Oh
maternal
yeah,
instincts, just kind
yeah,
of
that
coming into
makes
play.
sense.
Like, what's going on?
Yeah,
And maybe not. Again, I'm just throwing that out there, speculating of what it could be. But yeah, that's interesting. Hmm.
yeah, and these ones here in this house disappear when I walk towards them. Like the ones in my grandparents' basement, they didn't disappear. They just, or well, the only time they would disappear was when they were darting out of my vision. Like if I saw them out of the corner of my eye and I would turn to look at them, they would like be like, "Oh shit, I gotta get out of here." These ones, they just like dissipate as I walk towards them here.
Oh, okay, okay. So the behavior is different.
Yeah,
Interesting. When they're standing around, are they just? I mean, they're not moving at all.
no,
They're like stone statues made out of blackness.
yeah, exactly. That's the best way to describe it.
you know, I mean, they're just not. They're not just not going. It's like the Boo Ghost and Mario. As soon as you look at them, they stop
Yeah, yeah. That's a good analogy.
frozen. Then you go towards them, they're like, well, they dissipate, but those don't. Interesting. That's interesting. I think it is interesting that they seem to be. I mean, what do you think? Do you think that they're the same shadow people from your grandparents' house, or do you feel like they're different?
I mean, I feel like they're different, but it's a nice thought to like put into it. Like like they're watching. You know what I mean?
Right,
Or something is watching over me. Maybe I don't know. I mean, but it feels different
right.
for sure.
Interesting. Co-host Kevin, you got anything else here?
Um, no, I think I'm
Okay,
good.
that's honest. Well, weird Kevin, I'd like to thank you so much for having you on. So I'm just just for everybody that knows, I'm not calling him weird Kevin to be mean. It's an endearing statement.
And I
Just-
love it.
yeah, he was all for it. So I asked before we recorded. Anyways, so I mean, now that you've told, it sounds like you've told pretty much everything that's happened to this point.
Yep.
Um, I would definitely like to thank you for coming on, first of all, and opening up about your not just the experiences, but your past in general. That's not easy to do, um,
Mm,
but it's relevant to the story, I think. Do you
I
think
think so
that?
too.
Okay, well, that was my question. If you thought it was relevant, and I agree with you significantly. Where can people find you and what you do, and how can they stay in touch with everything that might happen here going forward?
All right. So I am on Instagram, where underscore the weird ones are. That's pretty much like one of the best ways to contact me.
Mhm.
But I also take, like, if you want to be on the show, it's where the weird ones are at gmail.com. But I also will, take inquiries off of Instagram as well. Facebook, where the weird ones are. And the show um, is on YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and Apple Podcasts. And there's a lot of other podcast streaming platforms that I could be on. I just haven't ventured out there. I do have a website too, by the way, which is where the weird ones are podcast.com. I got a blog on there. I've only written one article as of today, but you can see, there's a picture gallery of people wearing the merch. The merch store is on there, and there's a chat room on there as well. But there's a password on the chat room, so in order to get access to the chat room, you have to become a Patreon member.
Oh, okay. An exclusive chat room.
Yeah, so
Wow.
if you want to talk to like-minded people of this weird stuff, you could become a Patreon member and get into that chat room. I can't freaking figure out the Discord for the life of me.
Me neither.
So I was like, I'm just gonna make a fucking chat room.
It's not that hard, I promise.
Yeah, that's what everybody says, but I've been on it and I was just like, I don't know, this is I don't know. So I gave up. I mean, I'm sure if I keep trying, I'll figure it out, but
Yeah, you kind of learn as you go. I keep hearing it's not that hard, and then I get on there and I'm like, my brain, it's overwhelmed. It's done.
yeah, I probably get stimulated way too much anyway.
Yeah, yeah,
But with the chat room on the website, I'm only going to dedicate like an hour or two a day, maybe
right.
like an hour to communicate with everybody and like contribute to the conversations on there, just because, like, you know too much of um too much of being on your phone or whatever
Sure.
is not necessarily a good thing.
Yeah, yeah. It's you're not supposed to be,
Yes.
but if you guys want to, get on the chat room and take it back old school with chat room, um, go join the Where the Weird Ones Are Patreon because that's where it's at. I hear. Uh,
That is where it's at. I only have one member so far.
oh, well then
I
you need
just it lit
more.
Yeah, it literally just launched like
Oh,
the other day.
oh, okay.
So yeah, I'm just gonna put like bonus episodes on there. My conspiracy Tuesdays are gonna go on there.
Oh, okay. Very cool.
Just because YouTube may decide to like kick my channel over the conspiracy stuff. So,
Yeah, yeah.
and I
Well,
don't want
you
it to
know,
get to that point.
I mean, extra content and a chat room. The guys don't leave that one member hanging. Go chat him up. He
Yeah,
needs someone to talk to. It's not a chat room, it's a silence room right now. So you gotta
it
you, got-
absolutely is.
you gotta
It's a
you gotta
ghost
get it
now.
going. It's as a podcaster, it's hard to get engagement. It really is.
Yeah.
You're like, who are you people? Like you listen to my show, who are you? I want to know. So I can relate. Co-host Kevin, do you have anywhere where people should be following you?
Uh, well, right now I'm in a zone of silence because I'm packing, cleaning, getting ready to move here within the next
Sure.
few weeks. So I haven't really been making any content or anything because of buying a second house soon, hopefully.
Uh,
Oh, so yeah.
That's okay. You know what? Your peace is important as well. And if you need to take a break from content creation to make sure that you get your shit together, I endorse
Mhm.
it. So All right then. Well, you guys already know where to find me because you're here, so I don't have to tell you. Um, hopefully, I guess. Anyway, all the links are in the description. Check those out once you hit the pause button, and hopefully, this encourages some of you to come forward with some of your own personal stories. You can get a hold of me directly, either by messaging me on social media to schedule a time to have you on, or you can email me on Wednesdays, we talk weird at gmail.com, and we'll get a time slot for you to come on and share your own weird experiences. With that being said, guys, I'll see you back here next episode.